Hi everyone, my name is Monique.
And I'm Naveen from Before You Play.
And welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Board Games, where we talk about some recent games that we played.
Yes, so we actually have 4 different games that we're going to be talking about, one of which was a campaign legacy style game that we've been playing for a very long time.
A very long
and we
time.
finally finished it and can actually talk about it.
But before we get to the games, we do have a couple of things we want to mention. The first thing is recently we celebrated officially our 5 years on YouTube.
Yes.
5 years.
Mid-June of last year.
Yes.
Last year, what I was saying, 5 years ago is when we first put out our very first video. It was an unboxing
Yes.
for Villainous.
It's now private.
It is now a private
Had it
video.
for a while.
We don't do unboxings.
Yeah.
So we just felt that it was not really indicative of what we do on the channel. We were just kind of experimenting with cameras, camera angles, lighting and stuff, and just kind of put it up on the internet.
I'm sure a lot of people who make content can relate that when you first start making content, you start experimenting with all sorts of things because you don't really know exactly what you're going to be the most interested in or what is going to land.
Yep.
So we did do unboxings. We did a few of them when the very first time we started our channel, and I think I've privated all of them so far. But yes, it has been 5 years since that very first video.
Yeah, I think we didn't really enjoy making them either.
I did.
Oh,
I enjoyed making them.
Enjoy making them.
They took a long time.
Yeah.
So anyway, we always try to think about how we're going to celebrate our anniversary, our YouTube anniversary every year. But then we just realized recently that we just don't like bringing that kind of attention to ourselves, I guess. We very much so prefer on focusing on the games. So if you'd like to help celebrate with us, then do something fun, I guess, with your cat or dog.
There you go.
If you have one at home, or just treat yourself and let us know what you did. And actually, you know what we did do during our anniversary celebration? We had a hard drive fail.
Yeah.
So you may not notice, but
Yes.
we went a whole week, I guess, without releasing content, and it was not intentional.
Yeah.
So if our videos seem to be very close together within the next couple of weeks, just know that we had one of our hard drives fail in the past week, and some of the videos that we wanted to release weren't able to be released.
Yeah, things have to get pushed back a little bit, so it's kind of compressing up against other videos. So typically we try to release 2, 3, maybe sometimes 4 videos a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, this time around we had a nice 1 week gap, which was maybe to you it didn't feel any different.
Yes.
But for us it feels
But for
kind of
us,
strange.
it was on fire.
Yeah, not having that, and then we had to some of the footage that we had to end up reshooting it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the drag. So it kind of throws everything off on the calendar.
Content creation.
Content creation. And some other unfortunate news that you may have heard about in the gaming industry. Unfortunately, Game Brewer, which is a publisher in Belgium, is shutting down. They do have some outstanding crowdfunding campaigns that they are committed to fulfilling and getting all done. So I think they are doing a massive sale on their website to try to help fund those campaigns that are still kind of outstanding.
And they announced this, it's been a couple of weeks now.
I think,
and I think the sale was a big success. So I don't know what is still left in their stock, but we have a link in the description if you're interested in checking them out.
Sure.
We have worked with them in the past. We've enjoyed working with them, and it was sad news for us to hear as well. So we want to do what we can to help spread the news about their sale.
Yeah, they always have a really nice booth at Essen Spiel. It's like a really nice meeting point when you're there at the convention.
Yeah, they used to. They used to have the
pre-COVID. Yeah,
did they have the beer?
They're the ones that had
the
they had the beer on tap. It'd be like, hey, at 4 p.m., let's go meet over there. It's like, tell me about your day. You know, when you're going and meeting up with other people and how they enjoyed the convention. So that will be greatly missed. Hopefully, hopefully something good can come of this though.
All right, so then let's talk about some games.
Sure.
Now, before we begin with the games, we do need to mention that a majority of them, all except for one, were sent to us by the publishers for review. And we'll let you know which one wasn't sent by the publisher.
Sure.
So to start us off, we have the big legacy-style game that we took a very long time to play.
Quite a while to play
it's
this.
actually not that big.
But
It's
we
called
finally did it.
My City.
My City.
So they actually have a sequel to this already.
My
We
Island.
just finished this one.
Yeah.
So My City is a tile-laying legacy-style game by Rainer Knizia. And if you're not familiar with what a legacy-style game is, it's basically a campaign where you play the same game over several sessions, but things change. And in legacy games specifically, they can change permanently. And that is true for My City.
Sure.
Now, because of that, we don't want to show any spoilers, really. So we have limited images. We're just basically showing you images of what the first setup looks like, so it doesn't really spoil anything.
Yeah, so the ultimate theme of this game is you're building out your city, and then different technologies will come out over the course of years, I guess, that's going by. And so ultimately, in the end, you are trying to build out the best city and the best industry compared to your opponents.
And so the game is played over the course of 8 chapters, and each chapter is 3 episodes, where one episode is an entire game. The game itself does not take very long to play. I would say about 30 minutes,
The
depending.
box says 30 minutes, and that's about right.
Yeah, and that's per episode. So in total, you're going to get 24 plays out of the game because you don't restart any of the games, unlike other legacies. And so the way that each episode works is everybody has their own player board that is their starting city, and everybody has their own set of polyomino tiles. And there's a deck of cards that shows every polyomino tile, and one person is just going to be flipping over a card one at a time, and each time you flip a card, everybody needs to place that exact polyomino tile onto their board, following some placement rules.
It's kind of, think of it like almost like a flip and right, but this is like a flip and place. So you can configure your polyomino different than all your opponents, and so as you kind of make different decisions, then that's how your city is going to kind of change for that particular episode.
Yeah, and each chapter follows a certain theme, right? And we don't want to give away too much, but there are going to be stickers, there are going to be things that change the way that you score, change the way that you place tiles, and even bigger surprises, I guess, as you get closer and closer to the end of the campaign.
And the game does a fairly decent job of giving like consolation kind of prizes to those that are not winning the games, because ultimately you want to score points. To win this. So without giving anything away, so maybe if you come in second place or third place, you get a little bit better technology going into the very next one.
Right. And then at the very, very end of all 24 episodes, there is one final winner. And we're not going to give away who that was because we did actually play every single game of this on our Patreon. So we did them as live streams. And that is why it took us so long, because we weren't playing it just us on our own. We always had to schedule it as a live stream with our Patreon. We had a lot of fun doing it. It just took a long time, like a little over a year, I'd say.
I think we said a year and a half we played this over the course. But, we had to accommodate for going to Essen one year or, going to Gen Con, things like that. So getting these live streams in was a little bit of a challenge, but we ended up doing it all and we really enjoyed it.
And they are all there now. So for anybody who ends up joining the community at a later date, you can watch all of the episodes in sequence if you'd like to play along with us. So that is my city in a nutshell. Naveen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Definitely, I felt you get a good amount of plays out of this. Most games that are on your shelf, you're playing, I don't know, I'm making this up, 3 to 10 times maybe.
Depending on the type of gamer. There are people out there who focus on a small subset of games and they play those over and over again. But for people who like to play a lot of new games, which I think a lot of people fall into that category, then you typically won't get the same amount of mileage, from just any game as opposed to 24 that you're forced to play, right? With something like this.
This is one of those legacy games that, after your 24th game, you can technically just, now this is the board state, this is how you can play. For me personally, I think I got enough out of it. I really enjoyed the 24 plays. It's nice always opening up that envelope and seeing like, oh, this is a new thing, or oh, what I was so focused on in the past 2 chapters, the past 6 total like plays, that might be obsolete now, or that's like not as important as something that I have to shift my focus on. So we really enjoyed playing it. At least I did, and I felt like I got a good amount of mileage out of it.
I will say I really enjoy games with polyomino tiles. When we did the Uwe Rosenberg series, we did the tiling series first because I love tiling games. I think I like them a little bit more than you do.
Probably.
So this was really feeding into my style of gameplay. Now, I will say, if you don't like polyomino, that's what this is through and through. Like, you are just going to be placing polyomino tiles forever. And so I really like the chapter system because it didn't force you to have to do that for so long. Like, you can play the 3 episodes in a chapter and then you can pack it up and play it again some other time and it'll feel like more fresh again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because we played it over the course of an entire year, a little bit more than a year. There was moments though that you forget like what was in a previous chapter.
Yes. So I will say, don't do that.
That's pretty long what we did. Yeah.
There's definitely a limit to the amount of time you should spend before playing this again, because some rules hop in and out. So if you're on a much later episode and there's like a callback to a much earlier one, then it's really easy to forget the little rules that are in there, especially by the end of the game. So just keep that in mind, but also keep in mind that you are placing polyomino tiles over and over and over again. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you know you enjoy that sort of gameplay, then definitely try this because, like Naveen said, I thought it was really fun being able to open a new envelope because all the chapters are in envelopes and just see what new thing is happening. There's a little bit of a story to it,
Yeah.
although not too much, but.
Yeah, it's very. Also, it's this is a very family weight game. I feel like the overhead, the box says 10 and up, and I think that's right. So it plays up to 4 players. So I don't know. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I almost think the sweet spot might be 2. Like this plays
Back and forth, easy.
Such a good 2-player game.
What is nice though is it's all simultaneous because you flip over.
it is.
That's kind of why I said it's kind of like a flip and right, but a flip and lay. So everybody's just playing at the same time. So you're not going to get too bogged down. The only thing would be if somebody's like agonizing over, does this yellow tile go here, here, here? What's the most optimal for them? So that's the only thing. But other than that, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. It plays very well at 2, but I will say some of the competition might be a little bit better at 3, just because when you're between 2, the first and second sort of awards are not quite there.
Yeah, they're more polarizing in a first and second place versus a first, second, third, and fourth.
So anyway, that is My City. We are both very excited to play My Island now, which is the follow-up to this. But there you go, Reiner Knizia, polyomino tiling.
There you go.
All right, next up, we have a trick-taking game. So this is a game called Xylotar. It's designed by Chris Ray and published by Bezier.
Yep.
And this is a thematic trick-taking game.
Yeah.
It has a silly theme.
Silly theme.
I don't think it's going to resonate with everybody, but I found it to be amusing. And, you know, we both really love trick-taking games. And right now, we are in a world of trick-takers.
There's a lot coming out. There's a lot that's currently out.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And so in Xylotar, the theme is something like, okay, there's this polar bear. And this polar bear is a musician. They play the Xylotar, and that's what that instrument is.
Right.
And so there's a long backstory to it, but basically every player is going to be building their own Xylotar. And the Xylotar is made up of different keys, and those keys are the cards in the game. They're colored all sorts of colors, and those are the suits in the game as well. And so the way that the game works is you're depending on the player count. The game plays 3 to 5, and there are special rules for a 2-player game. You're going to deal out the cards, and then you are going to arrange the cards of the person sitting next to you from highest to lowest. And then you're going to flip it over and give it to that person, and they are going to lay out their Xylotar with the highest card to the left going downwards.
Yep.
So you won't actually be able to know what the values of your cards are, but you do know the ranges, because this is one of those games where each suit follows a specific range, and everybody has a key so that you can know what the ranges are. The object of the game is for you to score the most amount of points by collecting tricks. The way that it plays is pretty much a standard trick-taking game. The only thing is you're never allowed to lead a trick with the highest number in front of you, and you know which one your highest valued card is because it's always going to be the one furthest to the left.
You know where the position is, but you don't actually know until you suss it out with kind of deduction. What the actual value is of your highest card.
Sorry, that was Dexter. Under the table. And so when you play a trick, it plays like a standard trick-taking game in the sense that if I were to lead a trick, everybody else who follows me must play the same suit. And you can see the suits because of the back of the cards. They're colored that way. And if you don't have a card of the same suit, then you can play anything, including the trump, which is red,
Always
depending
red.
on player count. And at the end of the trick, whoever played the highest trump card or the highest card of the lead suit wins the trick. And so you're going to get 1 point per trick. So it's standard trick taking in that sense. But at some point during the round, you'll also need to bet. So it's one of those bidding style trick taking games where you're trying to bid on how many tricks you think you're going to win. And the way that works, though, is you're going to flip over, you're going to reveal to yourself 2 adjacent cards that are in your Xylotar, and of those 2 cards, you're going to put one back, and the other value is going to be the amount that you are bidding, essentially, or betting.
So over the course of the game or over the course of the round, as you start to figure out, like, oh, I think these cards are valued 4 and 5, and I think I could win like 4 or 5. So you say, hold on, guys, I'm gonna take a look at these and say, I'm betting that I am gonna win 4 tricks, by doing that. So So you want to make that decision at the right time once you can kind of suss out that, like, okay, I know I have a high enough value here. Maybe I know I have enough trumps to be able to win enough tricks, because if you do get that bid right, then not only do you get the value of the points that you actually get for the tricks that you took, so in that case 4, but you also get an additional 5 points for being correct on that bid. And the round ends as soon as all the players have played out all the cards from their Xylotar. And that's essentially how you play it. What'd you think?
I think that it is very creative. First of all, you need a lot of space.
You do,
okay?
yeah.
Because you're putting out your Xylotar across from you. And if you're playing a 4-player game, you sort of set up the game in a square. So everybody has to set up their Xylotar.
It's a good square table game.
Yes. It's surprisingly long. I think the Xylotar is 15 cards, something like that.
Roughly, yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's going to be that long, but once you start laying it out, you're like, wow, you need a lot of space for this. And this does play up to 5. In a 2-player game, there are 2-player rules, and you still set it up for a 4-player game. So you will need the space no matter what. I think the game has some interesting elements to it, and it starts off interesting because nobody knows the values of their cards. But somewhere a couple of turns in,
About the halfway point of a round.
if people are, especially people who are really good at deduction or card counting, you can start to deduce the values of people's cards. And if it's not all of the cards, at least some of them. And that still makes a big difference because of the way it scores. You're gonna get a point no matter what for every trick that you win. So that's where it can sort of be a bit frustrating, because if you were not dealt a very good hand and somebody was dealt a very good one, then they can sort of deduce what you have, and you're basically playing an open-handed trick-taking game at that point.
Yeah, it's true. And then also, I mean, half the element, in a trick-taking game is suits and then values. Well, half the information is already out there. Like, how many of yellows does Monique have? She only has 1. So if I want to guarantee that she has to play that yellow, then I'm going to make sure that she plays it right now. If I know that my yellow value is higher than anything she could possibly have because I've deduced other things, then I can kind of bully her away. So I guess that's part of like the strategy, but that's also can be sometimes the pitfall when you're on the bully end of it, then it can kind of feel like, well, I had no agency to do something about that because you know my secret that I only have 1 of this particular suit.
Yes, and somebody did arrange your hand as well, so they will literally know, if depending on how well they can remember it, they will know what cards you have to an extent. And same goes for you too. You'll know some information of somebody else's. The rule in the game that says that you cannot start a trick with your highest played card is helpful. That is a helpful rule, but it still doesn't completely eliminate that fact. So that was the main issue that I had with it. Other than that, like I said, it does feel like one of the more creative trick-taking games that I've played. If people who really love trick-taking, I think the both of us can say that we really love trick-taking, and what we find is people just love to play more and more trick-taking games. You just like to experience them. So
nice little buffet sampler.
Yes. So if you are somebody who loves trick-taking, I still recommend that you try this because it feels very unique. But just keep that aspect in mind. Try to play a little bit more strategically. I don't know if you have recommendations how to curb that, I guess, but that is the only thing.
Now, one part of the game that I do think is interesting is the way that you kind of declare how many tricks you are going to win. So as you start to suss out kind of the general ranges of what is remaining in your Xylotar, and you decide, okay, in this moment, I'm going to pick up these 2 cards, look at them, making that decision in that moment, like, okay, I think I'm gonna win 3, or sometimes you pull it and they're both 3s, and you're like, well, it looks like I'm gonna try to make 3 work for me,
Yeah.
So that part is interesting in the game. I do find that if your relative kind of cards are in the lower value, and you see that somebody else has really high values, in particular if they have a lot of the trumps, trying to be able to match them with guessing your bet to be as accurate as possible is going to be huge, because you get 5 points for being correct. So if you only guess that, or if you only bet that I'm going to win 2 tricks, the max you can ever score in that round is 7 versus somebody else who could win 7 tricks and just score 7 points.
Yeah, so there is that element of, if you see somebody has a really strong hand, then maybe you want to try to thwart them in them trying to get their bid right. Because that's just going to compound on the score.
Sure.
So that is an element of the game, and I do find the bidding process interesting as well, because you can you decide timing-wise when to make that bid. So if you wait till the very, very end, when you're only stuck with 2 cards, you'll be forced to play one of them first, and then you'll be left with a bid. So you have to try to figure out when the timing is right for you.
Right.
So anyway, that is Xylotar. This is actually one of a few different trick-taking games that are being released by Bezier this year.
Okay, the next game we want to talk about, this is a pure deduction game that came from from a company that was formerly known as BoardGameTables.com, now known as AllPlay, and this is Loot of Lima. Now, this is a pure deduction game where you know a little piece of the puzzle as to where potentially the buried treasure is.
Yes, this is a game designed by Larry Levy, by the way. And in this game, like Naveen was mentioning, everybody has their own player board. There is a map of an island in the middle of the table. And on that island, there are two areas where treasure is located. And it is your job to try to locate that by rolling some dice and asking people questions. Now, each location on the map is going to have a token associated with it. There are 3 different types of terrain. There's beach, forests, and mountains.
Yep.
And there are 8 sections of the board. So each specific location will have a number that pertains to the specific slice of
cardinal
the
directions.
island, as well as the letter that pertains to the type of terrain. Now, depending on player count, at the start of the game, each player is going to start with some of these tokens, similar to Clue. You know, I hate to compare this to Clue, but any deduction,
that's a good way to compare it. Yeah,
any deduction style game has similarities to Clue, and that is a very widely known game. So just like in Clue, where you get some of the cards that are not the answer.
Yep.
It is similar. You're going to get some of the tokens that are not the locations of the treasure, and then you're going to mark on your board which areas those are, and everybody has their own sheet of paper to take notes of everything.
Yeah, essentially at the setup of the game, all the different tokens that encompass all the different possible areas, 2 of those will be out of the game, and those are the 2 that you're trying to solve for. So if you accept, Northwest Mountain, well, you know for a fact because you're holding the Northwest Mountain token, that cannot be where the treasure is because you have the one token for it.
Right, and it's not going to say Northwest, by the way. It'll have a number for the area.
It's just going to make it as easy to explain as possible.
Yes, but the way that the actual gameplay works is on your turn, you're going to roll 3 dice. And the dice have the different types of terrain, which is why that bit is important, as well as the cardinal directions. So it's a north, south, east, west, as well as northwest and all of the diagonal directions. And of those 3 dice, you're going to choose 2 of them in order for you to ask a question. If you choose 2 dice of the same terrain, then you are only going to be asking about that one terrain. But if you choose 2 dice of different terrain, then you're talking about all terrain is part of the question. Now, of the 2 dice that you select, you are going to decide. So if I selected a north and a south die, I guess, then I'm going to choose on the board which direction I am encompassing for my question. Am I going to go clockwise and I'm going to go from the north to south and asking about that entire area on the board, or the other way around?
South to north.
South to north. And I'm going to choose one person around the table and ask them how many tokens they have in that area. And so that's pretty much the entire game.
And you're asking this verbally. So everybody.
Verbally.
So on Monique's turn, I'm also deducing something. Even though she might be asking the third player, which might be Michael, she's asking Michael, hey, how many tokens you have in this north to south? I'm hearing this. This is not secret information at all. So I can still deduce on somebody else's turn. So you're always kind of taking notes.
Yes, and that's the only information that's going to be available to you in the game over and over. There are 3 special abilities that you'll be able to use at some point during the game that help as well.
One's like re-rolling.
One's like re-rolling. Another one is asking a person a secret question.
It's the one time you can. Yep.
The one time that you can get information from them that nobody else on the table will hear. But that's essentially the game. Now, as you can probably tell, that's a lot of just vague information. And that is sort of the root of the gameplay. It's a lot of like, oh, Naveen's north to southwest area, which is a large area, he has 3 tokens, but I have no idea where these tokens are.
Not at all.
And now it's somebody else's turn, and you're just getting these like little bits of information all around your map, and it's up to you to take good notes so that you can truly figure out where those 2 missing tokens are out of like 24 or something like that.
I think it's 36, maybe. Something like that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I can't remember
less.
Exactly how many different possibilities there are. I would say, most deduction games, it is good to take notes. This one, it is absolutely vital to take notes because I am not a good note taker in life in general, but also in deduction games. And I find myself always about a third of the way through going like, I don't even know what this is telling me. Like, I'm asking these questions. I know you have one mountain from like east to west.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for me? Like, how am I going to now use that to kind of solve this entire puzzle?
Yeah.
But Monique and I have actually, I struggled with this game a lot in the deduction. So we actually decided to play a co-op, and I saw the way that she was deducing things and taking notes. That was very helpful. So I this one is very hard for me. I really enjoy what I'm doing while playing it.
Yeah.
But I just there'll be never a time where I think I'm gonna out deduce you.
You don't think you'll ever win this
I
game?
don't think I'll ever beat you in this
This
game.
game is really hard. It's very different from most other deduction games we played. In fact, we played this with Michael, our friend Michael, who has joined us a few times for 3-player gameplays. His brain is like a computer. And that session, you know, even he was like, "Wow, I'm a bit at a loss for words because it is really hard."
Yeah.
And the thing though about the game is it's also kind of long because as you can see, if you're only getting bits of information and then now it's the next player's turn, it's going to take a long time
Yeah.
for you guys to solve this problem. So it is a bit of a long game, but I love it. I
she does like it a lot,
really like Loot of Lima. I love deduction style games more than you, or do you like deduction?
You like him more than me.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I do
this whole
enjoy them, though.
time I
Yeah.
thought the two of us were the same on
No,
enjoying deduction.
no, I do, and I do enjoy this game.
Yeah.
It's just I just know that I'm just in it for the activity, and I'm not trying to win at all. Like it's like maybe I'll try to figure something out.
Yeah.
But we've played it several times, and every single time I'm like, I'm lost, but go keep asking questions. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, it's so fun because
Yeah.
it's so hard and you're just trying to figure out like how can I try to get this solved sooner, you know? There is a 2-player and I think you can play 1 player. So there's a 1 and 2-player mode for this.
Yep.
Now I will say, I don't know if it's changed now, but definitely the printings of the game that we have, they came with a booklet for the solo and 2-player experience because basically they've printed a bunch of scenarios and you can play it and look up the answers. It kind of has that thing. But the booklet that came in our game has incorrect information.
There's just straight up
these
errors.
Are
Yeah.
not playable.
Yeah.
I would confirm first on like the BGG forums or something if you plan on playing this game and you have a copy, whether or not your booklet is going to have correct solutions. But we have to throw this out. Now, as a sort of a consolation, I guess, they did release like a print and play scenario on BGG. It's on BGG.
Not a print and play, but a printable new version of this is what you
Yes.
mean, right? Yeah.
Well, they actually released so much more content
Yeah,
for it.
that's
So
right.
for if you're playing this solo or 2-player, there's a document on BGG that has a ton of scenarios that you can play this with.
Yeah.
I will say it is a bit tedious to play 2-player or solo because you constantly have to look things up via a chart. And the way that they created the charts in the booklet is really smart because it makes it so that in looking up one of your answers, you're not giving away information of somebody else's answer.
Right. Yeah, because you know how like sometimes like you look up something in a book, it's like I'm accidentally drifting my
Yeah.
eye and seeing the thing to the right. So now I know 2 or 3 pieces of information. This forces you to find a code,
Yes.
go into a different page, and then suss out what exactly that code means on that chart. So
Yes.
there's almost impossible to memorize.
It's a multi-step
Yeah.
process, basically. But it also makes it a little bit more tedious
Yes.
for the sake. And you have to make sure that you're playing the game correctly. You're giving people the correct information because
Yeah.
otherwise it's going to be
can
a
fall apart.
long experience that ends up falling apart. So that is the one thing. But if you can play the game in an ideal scenario, it's fantastic.
In
I
our
really,
first
really like
time
Lima
playing the
Knarr.
co-op,
Yeah.
we used this book not knowing that there was errors in this one.
Yeah, yeah.
Known errors. The company knows that there was errors in this, but you know,
Yeah.
there's unless you look it up, you know, you're not going to know about
Yes,
that.
there's
And we
no way
got
you can
about 80% through that game
Yeah.
to discover that this was wrong because we were like, wait, that
Yeah.
mathematically there can't be 4, you know, in this one area.
Right.
And so just be aware of that. If you are interested in this game, highly recommend you look up BGG.
Yeah, but at least in the discovery of that, we also discovered that there are so many more scenarios. So
Yeah.
if you enjoy playing this 2-player or solo, then you can play this for a very long time. And if you want to play it co-op, you can do the solo scenarios. That is,
That's what we
Naveen,
did, yeah.
before filming this, just mentioned that he would probably only want to play this co-op with
I
me.
think I only want to play this co-op, yeah.
But it's fun. Like when
yeah.
we did try it co-op, and I enjoyed that experience as well because we're both trying to figure it out together.
Yeah, and
So-
there's in that note taking that when we did play it co-op, it was I don't think it's an official variant or anything. We're just playing it solo together. As we're crossing things off, you know, you're saying that like, oh, because of that, this means this can't. Kind of like Sudoku. where you're just like, this does not, this means this
Yeah,
cannot
yeah.
be here. And then I'm noticing that, oh yeah, because of that, then this cannot be there. So
Yeah.
that hand holding was really, really important for me. So I think that's kind of the only way I want to play this.
So anyway, that is Loot of Lima. This is not a new game. So if you've
Yeah.
played this game before, I would love to hear your thoughts
When did
and
this come out?
any recommendations.
2020. Yeah.
When?
2020.
2020. So it's been out for a few years, but for all you deduction lovers out there, I challenge you to try this game. It's very interesting. All right, moving on to the final game for today. This is the one game that we acquired on our own. So Naveen got this game in a match
Trade. Yeah, oh yeah.
It is called Knarr.
Knarr.
I believe you pronounce the K.
I think it's officially
Knarr.
Knarr. Yeah.
Okay, so
I
this-
would say Knarr, but
This game is designed by Thomas DuPont and published by Pandasaurus Games. And in this game, you are Vikings. It's a Viking-themed game, and you are doing things that Vikings do.
you're trying to level up your reputation.
Yes.
You're trying to get crew to join you on various expeditions.
Yes.
And send them off.
And you're trading.
Yes.
And so the way that the game works is at the start of the game, players will start with some crew cards, and gameplay is very simple. Basically, on your turn, you're either going to play a crew card in front of you to your tableau, because you're going to be creating a tableau of crew members where each column, each stack can only contain crew members of the same color. So when you play, for example, a green crew member, you're going to play them to the green stack. And if so, then you're going to gain all of the rewards of all the crew members that are in that stack. And then there is a board that has crew members on it assigned to different colors. Then you will be able to gain a new crew card into your hand that matches the color of the stack that you played to. So in this example, you would take the one that was assigned to the green.
Yeah.
area.
So the board has just a color designation, but
Yeah.
what's the available crew member will not always be that same color.
Right.
It's just what happens to come out. So the card you play kind of dictates the benefits that you're going to get based off of your tableau, but also which particular crew member is now going to go into your hand for further
Yes.
use in the future.
Yes, and in that example, if I had played a green card, I would take the crew member that's assigned to the green section, but it might not be
It might be a yellow card
green
or a red
crew
card.
member. Exactly, but you're doing so in the hopes that you can continue to build out your tableau and gain better and better benefits. Some of the benefits are going to be stuff like gaining reputation or gaining the bracelets. There are two different types of resources in the game, and they'll allow you to do things like ignoring the color. So if I were to play a green card and I didn't want the crew member that was at that green
You
section,
could break the rule.
I could break the rule.
Yeah.
Alternatively, on your turn, if you choose not to play a crew member, then you can go on an expedition. And there are some cards that are above the board that will have a specific combination of crew members that you need to turn in order to go on that destination.
Thematically, these are the crew members that have been with you, and now they are the ones that are physically going out on that expedition.
Yes, and then you're going to place that expedition on your board at the top, because there's a section of your board where I don't quite remember what the section is called, but you're going to align it with these 3 columns. And basically, on your turn, you can also turn in resources in order to trade. And the amount of resources that you turn in dictate how many of those rewards you get. So the more expeditions you go on, the more benefits you'll get, because it'll start stacking above that section.
Yeah, ultimately the game is a race to 40 points. As soon as somebody hits 40 points, then that basically signals the end of the round or the end of the game.
And if you gain reputation, there are certain points along the reputation track that'll start awarding you points every single turn. And that's important because, like Naveen said, this is truly a race. So you're not trying to play the long game. You're just trying to gain as many points as quickly as possible. And that is the basic gist of the gameplay. Like I said, it is very simple, very straightforward. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually really like this game. The very first time I played it was kind of in ideal circumstances for me because we learned it on BGA. One of our members in the Patreon community was very kind to teach it to us, so it actually got getting the actual physical copy played up and running faster.
Yeah, that was actually a recommendation from members of our Patreon community. They said, have you tried Knarr before? And we said, we hadn't, and that kind of put it on our radar. So after that, we played it on Board Game Arena, like Naveen was mentioning. That was the first time we played it. And then Naveen found a copy.
Yeah, learning games on BGA or anything online for me, there's definitely like significantly less enjoyment. But once I have understood the game, going back now to like a Board Game Arena to play this game, up and running, and I really, really enjoy it also. So this particular one, it ends so much faster than I want it to. I want it to last a little longer. Yeah, like it ends. I'm like, I wanted to keep going just a little bit more. So it has kind of that addictive kind of
Yeah,
play.
it does.
And it is very much so kind of, I don't want to say it's like Splendor.
It's not like
It's not like
Splendor.
Splendor,
It's
but
not
it
at
has
all.
that same like tempo of Splendor.
It does, it
That
does.
feels good. That I particularly like about
Because
those
you're
particular
always
titles.
getting something.
You're always doing something,
Like
yeah.
you're either going to go on an expedition and get a bunch of stuff from that, or you're going to play a card into your tableau and hopefully get a bunch of stuff from that. So
Yeah.
it's like this like reward feedback mechanism.
Yeah, what I do like about the live play, meaning with a physical copy, is my issue that I always kind of talk about is glancing at what other people are capable of. In online plays, I just don't go around and look at what is player 1, 2, and 3 doing. I'm really just focused on what I'm doing and maybe kind of somewhat glance. When you're playing like around the table, you can see Monique is accumulating a lot of double green and double red crew members, and that expedition that I really want
Yeah.
requires double green, double red. So how am I gonna like
Yeah,
make sure that I get
strong
it
arm.
first? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's for me at least when I play games, there's more of that element in the physical copy, and so that's what I really enjoy about
Naveen
this
is
particular one.
very competitive. But on Board Game Arena,
fun, yeah.
I don't know if anybody else does this, but on Board Game Arena, Naveen also doesn't read all the rules before going into a new game.
No.
So, but
way.
I totally understand what you mean. The first time I played it was in that game, and my enjoyment of it was way less.
Less, yeah.
I thought like, it's okay. You know, everything was so automated. If you go up on the reputation track, it's going to give you the point every single time. Like you can hardly keep up with things that are happening, and you completely ignore everybody else's turn. And so when we finally played the physical copy, the cards are so well illustrated.
They're very nice,
They're
yeah.
very nice.
Yeah.
They're big. Like there is definitely a tactile aspect to the game. And I enjoyed it so much more playing the physical copy. Like going on an expedition and seeing the cards, like you said, all the options, it did feel more competitive. And then actually aligning the cards, it's more satisfying to play the physical copy of the game. So anyway, in the end for me, I think this is a nice sweet spot. You know, it's a very quick playing game. And in that small amount of time, you're definitely immersed in it. It's very enjoyable. And like we said, it does have that positive feedback. I don't know what the longevity of a game like this is going to be like. I feel like this is going to be like a few plays and then eventually it'll move forward.
Sure, yeah.
But
this is one that like for me, like when I go to a convention, and
Yeah.
it's like we don't really know each other. You want to play a game that I can teach you in 30 minutes. And kind of get in and out real fast before you're waiting for that next big 2-hour, behemoth game.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones that I
sweet
could see
spot.
myself bringing to a convention. So anyway, that is Knarr. If you have played this game, please let us know what you think about it because I am interested in that.
Well, there you go. That is another episode of Let's Talk Board Games. If you've played any of the games that we mentioned today, we would love to hear your thoughts because we really love hearing everybody's perspective. Also, if you end up doing anything to celebrate our 5-year, we would love to hear about it. And stay tuned because we do have a lot of content coming up in the coming weeks. We apologize if it's a bit too much content, but like we were mentioning, we had a bit of time that we have to make up for. And we haven't forgotten about the Suhi series. So that is still coming. It's
are
just a matter of
preparing
timing
it.
for us.
Yeah.
And we're preparing for it now. Again, thank you all so much for watching. Let us know what you've been playing lately, and we will see you next time.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Bye.